I think that now with AI assisted software delivery, I think we're moving into this era where the only limiting factor is going to be our ability to consume change.
Welcome to the /podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. I'm your host, James Carman, and today we have with us Carol Houle. Did I pronounce that right? Houle?
You did.
Like cool?
Like cool or pool, yes.
Yeah, very nice. All right. Carol is known as the Velvet Hammer, and I want to hear more about that after this intro here. She's a transformative digital leader who pairs disruption with empathy, modernizing legacy systems and mindsets without leaving teams behind. With over 20 years of experience driving holistic digital transformation in financial services and insurance, she builds lean, agile teams that deliver rapid, lasting value. Her leadership formula blends visionary strategy, collaborative OKRs, and lean startup execution to create engaged, change-ready organizations. Her current passion lies in leveraging technology for financial inclusion, developing solutions that promote stability for underserved Americans earning under $50,000 annually. Beyond work, she's a mentor, deacon, adventurer, and advocate for women in technology. Bottom line, she transforms both digital businesses and the people who power them. Welcome to the /.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I got to hear about this Velvet Hammer. I've never had someone have such a cool nickname. We had someone who had a pseudonym, and that was cool. But that's a cool nickname. What's this Velvet Hammer thing all about?
Yeah, so many years ago, I think it was about 15 years ago, I worked for EMC, which at the time they owned VMware, RSA. I don't think they had spun up Pivotal yet, but I worked within the sales team there, and I was a services person, right? And they basically sold boxes, and my boss's boss at the time gave me that nickname because I was able to work with these guys who were super smart engineers. A lot of them were D1 athletes, whether it was football or soccer or what have you. And he said I was gently able to kind of get everybody in the place that they needed to be, without making it feel like it hurt, but to get pointed in the right direction. So.
I believe that's a name of a drink, if I remember the poem. You remember the movie Cocktail? You remember that with Tom Cruise? That was his poem that had the Velvet Hammer, the Alabama Slammer, right? Okay. Okay, and then all that I could think of when I read Velvet Hammer was, you remember on SNL, that I don't know why this is in my head, but like the skit with Tim Meadows was a recurring thing, the ladies man. That's all I can think of now is the lady.
Yeah.
So hey, we're spicy here on /. Okay, that's fantastic.
You gotta have fun,
We do gotta have fun. So tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, you've been in financial services and insurance a lot. You've done. It sounds like you've done a lot of different stuff. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So, in the early to mid 90s, I was a part of the supply chain reengineering practice at Pricewaterhouse Consulting. And so I was a developer, tester, DBA, pulled cables through a data center, you name it in technology, I probably did it. And we were applying lean principles to client supply chains. So in the early 2000s, I was an early adopter of Lean Agile for software delivery. I and was always at that intersection of how do you generate business value with technology. I moved to Charlotte in around that same time frame, and really learned through just applying, right? No formal training at that point in time, and then in 2011, did my first cloud strategy, and at the time. Public cloud was nascent, so we were primarily focused on internal private cloud, and then public cloud was kind of on the roadmap, but a little bit out in the future. And I realized at that point, being an app dev person, that infrastructure, cloud was more than infrastructure. Cloud had the ability to allow us to create new technical products faster and in ways that were different, than what we were able to do previously. So I got really curious about everything you could imagine related to that. Learned a lot about DevOps, continuous delivery, and in 2014, I got the worked with a team, whole team of people, and was the first team that we got to continuous delivery as an operating model so that they could go from idea to in production as rapidly as possible. And that first digital product is now a $4 billion business for the company that we created it for. So from there, I pretty much decided that I wanted to focus my life on eradicating release weekends for as many people as possible.
And we're all very thankful for that. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And so I had a bunch of different leadership roles. I went to Cognizant Technology Solutions and created a continuous delivery enablement like consulting team. Then I was recruited to a French tech firm to help them, really to renovate them, to help them get into that same space. And then my last formal corporate role was to head banking, financial services, and insurance globally for ThoughtWorks before starting Inspire Digital Consulting about 18 months ago.
Wow, you've done a lot of stuff. And you said you started out at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers in the 90s. My math is correct here. You were probably the youngest person ever to join PwC. Well, you were 6 years old at the time, roughly.
Your math is really good.
Yeah,
Yes,
you were about
I
6.
was a child prodigy.
Yeah, it's like the Doogie Howser of cloud.
I was
Yeah.
the Doogie Howser of cloud. Yeah.
Nobody knows who that is. He's the guy from How I Met Your Mother or whatever, right? Yeah, that guy.
That guy, yes.
That guy. All right. So cloud strategy, you were doing like on-prem cloud, and then everybody realized, man, we just got all this money laying around. Why don't we put this in someone else's computers, pay them to do it? We went through all that. What has been like you've been a part of a lot of transformations, right? And I know that's what we talked a little bit about we have a prep meeting for these episodes. But tell me about your experience there with transformations and how has that been going? You said you were an early adopter of Lean Agile. I don't think we figured Lean Agile out yet. Like,
Yeah.
I think, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're still fumbling around with it. What's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the thing that I found over the course of time is that 90% of the change is between the ears. It's not just the teams on the ground, it's also the leaders. People need to change, they need to change what they do, to change how they think. But with any kind of transformation, it's really a change in what you do every day. Like if you break it down to the essence of what it is, and people change for very personal reasons. And so you really need to figure out what is that and how can you have the most sustainable adoption of the technology. And in my experience, if you really focus on something that the business cares about, the example that I was giving earlier, we were rolling out a new technical product that would generate revenue for this company, right? So anytime you can find that place to start where you can do thin slices, you can start relatively small, but it's something that's important to the business. That's where I found the success really lies.
Yeah, you said the changes between the years. I really love that phrase. And what I was thinking, and you explained it different, where I was thinking is like, that's where you have to whack them right in the forehead to get them to do what you want them to do. And that's not what you meant though, right? It's more about the brain matter. And okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, and
that works
you
too.
need to get to their why.
Yeah.
Right? Like you really need to be at a place where the way that you're speaking the change to people resonates with them, right? And so like when for example early on when we were trying to focus on getting engineering teams to adopt DevOps, having that battle cry of do you want to eradicate release weekends, like that was actually really, that was really a positive thing. I will say though, I was at this AI Forward event the last 2 days, and I was listening to one of the speakers talk about how they're working ridiculous hours now that they have AI assisted software delivery. I'm like, wait, we we were
That
doing
sounds
this
wrong.
so that you wouldn't work all these ridiculous hours. Like, well, what's happening?
I think I'm having the same experience maybe, and it's just because I'm having a lot of fun, right? Maybe that's it. And that's a me problem. That's not the technology problem. That's a me problem. I'm having a good time with my little side projects. All of them are like, oh, that's not so daunting anymore. I can sit down and spend an hour and make some headway on it. And
Exactly. It is. It's kind of like when the ATM came out. It was like, oh, instant gratification, you know?
yes, yes, yeah. Oh man, it's the dopamine drive. Yeah, for sure. Now, we talked a little bit about like kind of that notion of fatigue. So as you said, change is, it's the biggest hard and the hardest part about change is culture, is changing what's between people's ears and changing their mindset and how they think. But technology changes so fast. How do we kind of marry up those two concepts? Because it takes a long time. The culture is very slow to change. It's very slow changing, but technology is just so rapid. How do we marry
hmm
those two worlds together and effectively and keep people from just going bonkers?
Yeah, and I think if we can figure that out, I mean that's a human problem of prioritization. If I've said for so many years that software is an asset that can quickly become a liability if it's
Uh,
not done well. And I think a big part of the problem is that companies feature chase, right? They really don't. The business doesn't necessarily, and nobody will admit this, right? But the business doesn't really understand what's valuable to the end consumer and how to measure it. And so you end up with these like endless backlogs of work and then people don't prioritize like, okay, well, what's really most important to do. And I think if you narrow down on that, the technology solution that will help accelerate the business value delivery will become really clear, and it's a little bit more of a kind of a limited a limited amount of change that people would need to consume if you're picking the right things. But I think it all stems from, and this is something that you and I have talked about before, like how good are the leaders at protecting their teams from just a flood of work, right? Because if you can prevent the flooding, then as my friend Sally Alada loves to say, you get flow, right? But you've got to prioritize, you've got to prevent flooding the team. Because small consumable chunks of change and experiential learning, that's what people need.
there's probably some sort of like physics concept, Bernoulli principle or something going on there that yeah, like you could apply that. I don't remember my physics stuff, but yeah, there's got to be something there. I'll have to look that up I'll opine on that and just be so smart on another episode.
I will look forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be fantastic. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. Yeah. Now you mentioned like the feature chasing, and it was Melissa Perry has a book that she talks about that whole the feature factory, and everybody we're just so concentrated on we got to have features, we got to have features. And one observation I've had is like as you said, we kind of lose sight of what the market wants, like the actual users want. And I've seen this. I worked for a company that was in the higher education space, so we developed software for higher ed. And one of the just fascinating things is you'd have people who would go to conferences and they'd see another vendor says, I've got this check mark. And when they look at their check marks and they say, I don't have that check mark. We need this check mark. And it's like check mark chasing. And then the whole time everybody's going back and forth, competing over all these check marks. Nobody ever really asks the customer, do you even want this stuff? And they're chasing each other and trying to outdo each other with all these check marks. And it's like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, yeah. That's why I've increasingly become a huge fan of the jobs to be done framework.
Mm,
Right. And I'll give you just a simple, like I'm sure you've heard of that framework. It is an oldie but a goodie.
mhm.
But I was working with a company, a financial company that issues private label credit cards. And we were talking about the customer journey, and they were trying to figure out, this is for the children's place, like why people were not signing up for the cards. And I'm like, okay, again, it helps that I'm a mom, right? Like
Mm,
now
mhm.
my kids are 17, 20, and 22. However, I remember distinctly what it was like trying to take three little kids under the age of six, right, to shop for back to school clothes. And I'm like, listen, you've got to put yourself in the place of that mom. What job is she trying to get done? She's not coming into the children's place to sign up for your credit card. right? So you need to think about like how can you make it effortless and frictionless for her to get the discount that you're offering because she'd like to get the discount,
Hmm.
but you can't have the engagement experience to be so complicated that, the kids are starting to throw a fit because it's taking too long. I mean, that's just like a real practical, pragmatic example, and jobs to be done, I'm like totally simplifying it, but I found that to be super useful.
Yeah, the last thing on that mom's mind is, let me fill out a credit card application right here while my children are running around ripping clothes off the shelves and all of that fun stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, so you mentioned jobs to be done. What are some other kind of, these oldie but goodie principles that you found to be kind of tried and true in your
Hmm.
work as you're working with these companies?
Yeah, yeah. The other thing is this idea of defining objectives and key results. Again, that was created at Intel a long time ago. And it's a simple but beautiful and elegant, concept of really establishing at different levels in the organization, starting with at the highest level, what is really the objective, right? And then the key results are like, how do you measure that you've
Hmm.
actually achieved the objective? And so what I typically do is I pair that concept with the concept of value stream mapping, right? Because if you think about an end-to-end business value stream, and let's follow along with the I'm signing up for a credit card, value stream, right? Someone goes from being interested in actually signing up for the card, purchasing something on it, all the way to servicing it, right? So like that's an example of an end-to-end value stream. Well, there's a certain objective from a business standpoint that the company is going to have for that value stream, and that should line up to the overall objectives and key results that the kind of the company strategy has. So if you think of this in kind of terms of a traceability, if you will, um, and then the jobs to be done framework that marries up like what is it that your end consumer is trying to get done, and when those two meet, that's where you get a successful product if you can execute on that. And if you're doing that, you're not feature chasing because it's not based on who's got the brightest idea. It's based on where there's alignment between what your end consumer needs to get done from their perspective and what you're trying to drive from an overall company perspective.
And as we, engage with clients for these transformation efforts, a lot of the things that we're trying to change or behaviors we're trying to fix, if you will, those are going to come from leaders, and it's not their fault. I mean, they grow up in an industry that's flawed. I mean, we're always flawed, but I mean, you learn as you go, you evolve, and you get better through time. But they grew up in an industry working one way, and now they're the leaders. That's the way they know. So how do you get leaders to unlearn some of those old habits and start to think differently?
Yeah, it's tough. Awareness of what you need to change and how you think and what you believe is something that's really, really challenging to get to. So we've actually created a 360 review process, and we call it our inspired leadership assessment and growth planning exercise. But basically, you can get feedback from your peers. Right, because
Hmm.
if you think about like how the community, the ecosystem within an organization to actually go from it's an idea to it's in production, you've got peers that you're working with. You've got, the team that works for you. You have the leaders that you work under. Like you're in an ecosystem. You're not just kind of independent by yourself. And many times, people are either harder on themselves or not maybe hard enough, right? Or,
Hmm.
or maybe there's some things that are just complete blind spots. And interestingly, I'm a huge fan of David Marquette, who wrote the book Turn the Ship Around.
Great book,
And
man. That's a good
yeah,
book.
love
So good.
it.
Yeah.
Love it. And what he talks about is really getting to more of an evolutionary worldview. Um, And if you think about how we've organized over the course of time to get things done, like the early way of organizing was, of course, like caveman, or the strongest person, right, is the one that kind of comes in, makes the decisions because they're physically, capable. But then we moved into an era where we had hierarchy, right? So like think of like how the Catholic Church works,
Hmm.
and in many ways, a lot of corporations took pieces of that. And then you had the meritocracy. And then, we've evolved over the course of time in terms of our thinking about how to organize and to get things done. But some of the older ways of thinking that were very like hierarchical in nature, or even the strongman, right, way of thinking, leaders, they visualize like how they can get things done in the kind of the frame in their head for how they believe is the right way to get things done.
Hmm. Very
Um,
regimented. Yeah.
yeah, very regimented, and there's this belief in many of the leaders that I've worked with that you have to be in control. And the truth of the matter is that control is an illusion. Right, like, right, like even if people are your direct reports, so you have to give people some exercises to go through, and some kind of feedback, right, 360 feedback from different parts of their organization, for them to come to the realization that, what, I thought that that I was communicating with what in a way that was respectful to people, but actually I thought these people were idiots over here, and it was coming through whether I was actually saying that directly or not. Right?
Everything
Like,
I said was dripping with, I don't think you know what you're doing. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I like smiling, saying the appropriate words, but everybody knows.
Yeah. Yeah. See right through you. Okay. I got it. Guilty
Uh,
as charged.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
Hmm.
Like we all
Yeah.
fall into that, all of us guilty. So,
Yeah. I think
mm.
it's interesting because like a lot of those structures kind of, I don't know. I'm going to kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent, but those structures were kind of built into us in a time when the world was, it could be very regimented. It was predictable, and there was a lot that just happened the same way every single time. But like since like the Industrial Revolution, like things are different. We're accelerating very quickly, and being able to kind of, as Marquette allowed, what's like that empowerment notion to the team to let them be thinkers and not just do what I say and don't ever question. We have to adapt that in order to be able to keep up with the world around us, I think.
It's true. And that reminds me, I listened to the podcast you recorded with the CIO of Fifth Third.
Mm,
And one of the things that he mentioned, which I thought was really, really wise to point out, because he came from GE,
hmm.
that the business cycle for what GE does is very long, and
Yes.
the business cycle for a bank is shorter. It's much more transactional, and so even like the way of thinking and the paradigm within the industry that you work in is going to impact how you think about leading, and how you think about software delivery.
Yeah, and I remember, and I have it jotted down here on my notes, and I thought it was kind of an interesting thing. You mentioned HR, and this may be completely off topic, but I remember you were talking about like HR can like define your architecture, and then because of just the way it's organizing things, because of these hierarchies that we think this is the way to do things, and it ends up kind of the Conway's law kind of taking effect, and oh, darned, our software systems start to look like the org chart that HR drew up. Right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been a fan of team topologies
Uh,
since I
yeah.
read their first book. I know they just came out with I don't know if it's a second one or a second edition of the same one, but that idea that um, you need to organize teams around the flow of business value is really wise. And the idea that you have the hierarchy that you perhaps need, right, in order to do expense reports and time reporting and all that kind of good stuff. But the way that teams are organized to actually get work done should really be aligned to value streams. There are some teams that are enablement teams. Like architecture is not frequently thought of as an enablement team, but they could and should be, right? If they're following evolutionary architecture principles, right, and practices. And then then you've got platform teams, right? So you've got the platform engineering team, whether it's data platform or the team that's focused on helping to ensure the value stream aligned team have all the right kinds of pipelines and such that they need to move code through from idea to end production. That if you think about the way that those teams are set up and structured, versus how they used to be structured, right? The old way is that, you'd have the Workday team and you'd have the Salesforce team and you'd have, and I've had people argue with me that, oh, well, Salesforce is a platform. Okay, well, that's true. However, it fits, it fits into an end-to-end business value stream that actually has other applications, other platforms, that are a part of it. Because if you're going from contract to cash, right? Salesforce is just a piece of that. It's not the whole thing. And I think, in the way that you design organizations and the way that you think about enterprise architecture, you really need to learn how to see from end to end, from the system of engagement back through the system of record. And think about how you organize teams to get work done, so that it flows more smoothly. Because what you're trying to do is, back to the Conway's Law point, is you're trying to organize the team so communication is really simple and seamless, and
Absolutely.
you don't have to get approvals and decision points, et cetera.
Yeah, I love how you run into that so much in consulting. The teams that name themselves after their tools, that sort of thing. Like people are like, well, but that's what we do. Salesforce stuff. That's what our team does. Like, but we don't. Business doesn't just buy Salesforce for. Well, hold on.
They
Some
shouldn't. They
businesses,
shouldn't.
yeah, I was gonna say, some businesses do Salesforce for Salesforce sake.
But they
Some do.
shouldn't.
They shouldn't, and most don't. But you're using Salesforce to solve a business need, not because it's Salesforce. Again, some people do, but it's a business need. So what if we wanted to switch to another tool? Does that mean all of you people go away? Like you still serve the same function in the business. It's just a
Exactly.
different tool. And
Exactly.
that it's hard to get them to kind of shake loose of that. Well, I'm in Salesforce all day long, so we must be the Salesforce team or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
and
just an example.
I'm really hoping that with the evolution of AI, we can finally get to a place where we can actually track the business value that is delivered in a value stream across multiple applications. Because when you have that instrumentation in place,
Hmm.
and you can really tell, okay, well, we were trying to, let me use a quick example. We were trying to figure out how to get more motorcycle application policies from someone being interested to actually signing up for policy.
Hmm.
And so we were actually able to track, like, what was that conversion rate, and were we actually shipping the right software, the right features to improve that conversion rate. Like, we were instrumenting it and looking at it from what's the business value that we're trying to deliver. And that went across a bunch of applications, like that little, that kind of that value stream went across a few things that were in-house, and then SaaS-based solutions. But I think we need to get into that lens, right? Where we're really, looking across all applications, right? From the perspective of what's actually going to either make us money or solve a client's problem, or, like, and really being able to instrument and articulate the value.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought AI up in that context. I like that idea. And you were like, let me give an example because I think you can see my face. We do video while we're recording. She could see my face, and I'm like, huh? Like I'm thinking through it. She's like, I think I need to explain it to this dummy. Um, But the question I have is, there seems to be this, like, I don't know, there's like, we're like swirling the drain of, that's the only way I can kind of think of it. It's like, so we have extreme programming, and then we had agile, and then we have scrum, and then we have safe, and we have lean, and we have all of these things, but they're all kind of in DevOps. Now we've got platform engineering, and all these things are like swirling together, and we're kind of reaching this like Voltron structure, and we're putting all these things together. Is AI going to be that final piece of that puzzle that lands us at this kind of like aha moment for our industry?
That's what I'm believing that is the trajectory. And I think you know that I'm friends with Nick Kirsten, who created TaskTop, and this is something he's been really passionate about for years. And we've had lots of conversations around how do you get to that place. And they actually started integrating AI into their platform a few years ago. And so they're already doing some of that, like predictive, work to use the data to figure out, okay, well, what is actually the value? It's one thing to be able to measure, lead time to change, et cetera, but like uh, actually looking at what is the value that you're delivering versus what was the cost to serve, right? For that software that you just created. And I think when we get to a place where we've got better information, it will help with the decision process for what you really should do versus, what's happening today, which is the strongest voice in the room decides what happens.
Dang it, that's going to be bad for me, because I'm always that, that bully in the room who gets his way. No, I'm kidding. I try not to. Well, I'll tell you
Hmm.
what, Mick, if next time you're on it, tell him he's got a definite fan, and like that book of his, the project to product of his is awesome. And it was the first book I've ever seen anybody kind of lay out like, hey, dummy, you can't just do feature, 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 feature all the time. You got to kind of bake in some of those. So that all the time we always were like begging the business, hey, can we actually do the software engineering that we need to do to keep this thing running smoothly? Like, that's like like saying to a race car driver trying to ask the pit crew, can we maybe, change the oil on this car every now and then so, it doesn't blow up in my face. But that book, it outlines like you can't just be, feature all the time. You can do it for periods of time, but you have to kind of pay the piper every now and then, and you bake into
100%.
the, yeah, I love that. And there was like 4 types of work. I don't remember
Yeah,
off the top
yeah,
of my
yeah.
head, but
No, you're
it was
spot
the only
on.
book who ever like codified that and explained it so that people can understand you have to
Right.
do this stuff.
Yeah, you need non-functional requirements, right? You need
Hmm.
non-functional things that are in your backlog, and you have to balance that, right? Can't be just feature work, can't be just defect work. It's got to be, some of that has to be fixing how we just operate as a team.
Well, give Mick a high five or a fist bump or whatever next time you see him.
I
For
will.
me, from
I
me.
will. I will
Yeah,
from you.
'cause
Yes.
that's a fantastic book. I showed it to my brother. He's in the same kind of work, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been trying to explain this for years, and it's fantastic." So, um, I do want to hear a little bit about. I know so you mentioned that you started your own consulting company about 18 months ago or so. So
Hmm.
you come from a background of being with some of these like just monoliths of companies. You've been at ThoughtWorks, you've been at PwC, you've been at EMC. Like, what led you to from that path all the way to like, let me start my own company, a small company, and go kind of, grassroots this thing? Like, walk me through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, when I went to Cognizant, I made the decision that I was going to be in the business of uh, renovating, right, parts of larger companies. And so that's what I was doing there. That's what I was doing at the French tech firm I worked at. That's what I was brought into ThoughtWorks to do. And I was complaining honestly to a friend of mine, who's the CTO for Bread Financial, about um, just about the things that were fundamentally broken in the consulting model, that I thought needed to change. But because of the way that most of those firms were set up, it was just so foundational that you couldn't change it because it would literally kind of rip apart the fabric of how their business model worked.
Hmm.
And there were a few things. Like one of the things that I said is, consulting firms should be about digital value creation, right? Like we should not be about just delivering PowerPoints. We should be about delivering outcomes. And my second beef was that most consulting firms do a pretty good job at top down transformation, like getting executives on board. But to make sustainable change happen, you have to have both a top down and a bottom up,
Hmm.
movement. And they either weren't willing or weren't able to operate in that way. Um,
People with the C in front of their title are the ones that can sign those big checks.
I know. See, that's the
You know what I mean?
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And then I also said, if you really want to drive sustainable change, right? If that's really like everybody says it, but if that's really what you want to do, then you should be enabling experiential learning, right? So it's not just the old model where you come in and you do it for them. You've got to do it with them because
Hmm.
that's the only way that people learn. And then last but not least, I can't tell you how many times, and I love young people, okay, but if you have the experts who are selling, and then you bring in the rookies to deliver, and the client ends up training your rookies, that's just bad.
Right.
That shouldn't be happening. And so I was complaining about all these things, and she said, "Why don't you start a consulting firm, and I'll be your first client?" And I said, "Okay, let's go."
Nice. Man, that's just a ready-made company right there. I love it. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Well, your friend gave you good advice because those are all like those instincts are spot on. Uh, that whole thing of like, okay, we're going to come in here and tell you exactly how we think and what we believe and how we approach problem solving and all of that. And then we're going to bring in a bunch of people who don't know us at all off the street. And can you train them to do what we just told you we think?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what
but you
could go
gotta
wrong?
feed the beast, right? You
Yeah.
gotta feed
Yeah.
the beast. Like you look at how big, and I won't name names, but you look at how big some of these companies are. And, for them to achieve growth, the growth percentages that they're looking for, there's decisions that they have to make that are not always in the customer's best interest. And I just ethically, I couldn't do that anymore. I needed to be able to create a business model that actually helped organizations drive sustainable change for me to feel good about what I was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important as a business owner to be able to, put
Yeah.
your head down on your pillow at night. Okay. This has been great. So we're gonna move on to our next segment of the show. But any sort of like, what are you seeing like the future kind of trends, opportunities? What sort of practical takeaways from kind of all of what we've just said? What do we
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just, and I feel like I say this every few years, but it's just an amazing time to be in technology.
Mhm.
It really is. And I think that um if we can just help organizations really kind of nail down their why, like
Mhm.
why do they want to do what they're trying to do with whatever new digital product or change effort that they're trying to deliver. I think that now with AI assisted software delivery, I think we're moving into this era where the only limiting factor is going to be our ability to consume change, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
and that becomes the bottleneck, right? I mean, crazy enough, like one of the guys I was talking to yesterday, they changed their org structure so that because they're doing AI assisted software delivery now, that they have a product manager and then like a bunch of engineers, and the product manager is actually the bottleneck now
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
because they can create the code much faster. The product manager is a bottleneck, and the testing, automated testing, is a bottleneck. But I think that we need to think big. We need to dream big about like what are the real problems that we can actually solve now, that
Mhm.
that limitation of speed of software delivery is maybe not as much of a factor. However, having said that, we need to be able to do it in a way that doesn't rapidly create a bunch of junk. Because the other thing I found is that, AI assisted software delivery, like a amplifier. So if what you're doing is really good, it's going to amplify that. If what you're doing is really crappy, it's going to amplify that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I said this or something. I heard this recently, but like, it's just a way of letting you do stupid things much faster. Like that's what we can do now. And I
Right.
mean, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. There is a complete recalibration that's going to have to happen in our industry of like forever. It was always like the idea people were always kind of sitting around twiddling their thumbs, waiting on us to do their ideas. And now we can implement those ideas very, very fast. It's going to be like I don't think the idea people are used to this notion of like, I got to keep coming up with ideas on a rapid pace now. Like they're not used to, and they didn't have to because we couldn't keep up with them. But I think that it's changing, and we are going to be able to. So I'm really excited to see, like, once we do get kind of the ideation engine revving again, or I don't know if it ever did, but let's rev that engine and really crank that. Let's redline that engine and see what happens. Because now that we can keep pace, we're going to be
Right.
able to go but we got to go smartly.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what are those bigger problems that we just couldn't solve before that, now we should be able to actually solve. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. I think there's definitely going to be bumps in the road, but I think we'll be able to accomplish things in the next 10 years that we wouldn't have thought humanly possible. I mean, just one, I know we're running out of time, but one example. So, Dr. Fei Li, who she created ImageNet,
Mhm.
she thought that, her whole like life aspiration was to get machines to be able to see. And she thought it was gonna take, like, the rest of her life, to be to be able to get to what we have now. It took, like, 5 years. And so that rapid innovation cycle is just super, super exciting.
Yeah. It's going to be, as you said, it's a wonderful time to be alive in technology, because it is going to be crazy for the next 5 years to try, because it's a complete recalibration. All of the estimation and all of this, throw it all out the window. It's all gone. There's first principle thinking, yes, but I think all of the kind of the calculations are everything needs to be recalibrated. I do think there's something to that. Okay, well, fantastic. Well, now we're going to move on to our ship it or skip it section.
Ship or skip, everybody we gotta tell us if you ship or skip.
Excellent. I'm excited.
Excellent.
I
Yeah.
am ready. Let's go.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of organizational change, and there's one thing, and we mentioned Conway. One thing people bring up in this whole thing is like when you're doing organizational change, this notion of the reverse Conway maneuver, right? And the idea there is like let's redo our organization, and then our software architecture will just miraculously
I was just doing a
be that.
yoga
Yeah.
pose for those who are just listening. Well, it was a bad yoga pose, but I was trying to do a yoga pose.
It was like you were voguing but got stuck, something like that. Like
Exactly what it looked like.
that's what it was like.
It was almost like an Elaine dance move from
Oh yeah,
Seinfeld, but
yeah.
not that elegant, right? So,
It was a
um,
full body dry heave set to music, is what I believe George said, right? Yes, yes.
oh, so the reverse or inverse Conway
Inverse, yeah.
maneuver. I don't know. I do think that there is something to be said for designing teams in the way that software needs to flow along a value stream. So this idea that um, that will drive your architecture. I think it's a balance,
Hmm.
honestly. Like, you know, uh, I think the problem that they were trying to solve was kind of getting the enterprise architecture to more accurately reflect the value streams. Um, and so I think I think it would be messier, right? Like I theoretically, this inverse Conway, like I can see where they were going with it. But I think practically, it's better to think about enterprise architecture from an end-to-end business value stream lens. Um, at that level, right? Instead of like trying to think about forcing a structure of a team, because there's a lot of dimensions in why you organize, the way that teams organize, so it's I can see their logic, but I'm not 100%, you know I'm not 100% there. I do think that there is a place, to achieve what they were thinking to achieve with the inverse Conway effect, with using an AI agent to help with the architectural patterns, right? Because an architect, it's an enabling team. They're not going to be able to be everywhere, right? But if you had some way to have AI agents set up to help facilitate evolving the architecture and really understanding what really it was today, and helping to enforce standards. I think maybe that's a more practical way to get to evolutionary architecture than what was recommended in the inverse Conway.
Yeah. For a long time, I really liked the idea of the whole, inverse, reverse Conway, however you want to phrase it. But like one of the things we notice, like in Agile, right? One of the reasons why we don't write down these big plans and everything is because it can be stifling, right? So especially like, remember how much time you invest in these beautiful architecture diagrams, and you print them off and you put them up on the wall, and you're like, and then as you start to develop software, you're like, yeah, this architecture is not really working. It's not meeting the business need. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But I got a
Right.
big diagram. That
Yeah.
cost me $150 at Kinko's to print that thing.
It's a
We are
beautiful
not changing.
diagram.
We're not changing
It's
it.
a big, beautiful diagram.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not changing
exactly.
it. Not happening. Think about that with an organization. Like if you
Yeah.
get it wrong, they're not malleable. Moving people around and messing them around like that, it doesn't work. So it's like worse than the big beautiful diagram. It's the big beautiful organizations, and now you're stuck in
Yeah.
that.
Well, and
I
the,
don't
the thing is, and I've actually talked to Nick Kirsten about this, because, he runs a software
know. Hmm.
company, like, or like part of a software company. And, he said that he's frequently like redesigning the teams based on where he sees the bottleneck.
Mm.
And so I think thinking about how you organize teams based on flow, and based on identifying where the bottlenecks are and removing them, I think maybe that's more an effective way to kind of look at how you design tech organizations. So
Yeah. Okay. So it's great. You have great consulting answers of like it depends, and I think yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's the test. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this, but I wanted to hear more like your take on a lot of times we strive so much in software delivery because it is expensive, right? It is to do software development. It's getting less expensive with AI. Traditionally, it has been very, very expensive. People cost a lot of money. It takes a lot of people. So we're constantly trying to reduce the cost out of technology and drive all the cost out of technology. Do you think is that short-sighted? What is
hmm
your take on that?
yeah, I think it totally is. And I have spent many years working in financial services and insurance. And so I guess in my mind I thought that this was a phenomena that happened in banking, financial services, and insurance, because they view technology as a cost center,
Hmm.
and a cost center needs to be managed down to as small as possible, right? They don't all see technology, and there are some companies that don't see the world through this lens, but they don't always see technology as a strategic lever to help them win in a market. And I think that should be more of the thinking. And if you have the philosophy that software is an asset that can be a liability, and your objective should be to deliver less software better, and better software to achieve your business outcome, and to really set yourself apart from a business strategy standpoint, that's the right way to think about it, right? Not cost takeout.
Yeah, I think once a lot of organizations, kind of make that leap to wait a minute, you mean this technology thing can actually drive revenue for us? Then that's when things start to take off, especially in the modern economy, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. Every company is a technology company in one way or another, as whether they want to admit it or not.
It's
They have
true.
to be.
Yeah.
So that's a skip it on cost, basically treating IT as a cost center kind of a thing, right? So yeah, okay, I'm with you on that. I'm a skip it. I would not ship that. All right, and then I think I know where you would go with this, but I want to ask: digital transformations, agile, transformations in general, any of these transformations, cloud, whatever. A lot of times we take it like there's this big upfront design, right? When it comes to transformation, we spend months and months and months and months and months, and we come up with this big, beautiful plan. Again, probably draw a big diagram, right, and put it up on a wall. And we even make the coffee mugs with some little quippy phrase that says, well, "Let's do this" or whatever.
Yeah.
What's your take on that whole process? And is there a better way?
Okay, so. And that is a ship it or skip it, right?
Ship it or skip it. Like, is it?
I
do you need to go through the big upfront for that?
I say skip it. I think that you do need to take some time to make sure that the business strategy is understood. But my belief is that, and my experience is that you need to have more an adaptive business strategy, right? And this is many years of doing this kind of work. It's akin to bringing lean startup to the enterprise, right? So instead of having a strategic plan that's like 3 to 5 years out and too much changes, like back to your point when we started the conversation, like how quickly the technology and business is transforming now, and constantly new things coming out with market shifts happening that quickly. You can't really have a set it and forget it strategy. You have to have more an adaptive strategy. And so you don't want to spend, 6 months, right? Focused on creating some big upfront piece of work. I'm pretty convinced that the only reason why that ever happens is because some consulting firm comes in and tries to sell a piece of work for a certain amount of money, and it takes that much time and that much money. And I don't necessarily think it's the right thing for organizations to do to actually drive results.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole perfect is the enemy of good or whatever kind of concept, right? I mean, we feel like we have to get that diagram up on the wall perfect before we start. But you can do some of these things incrementally. It's not a wholesale thing that you have to get everything perfect before
you have to get
can add some
feedback.
value. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you have to get feedback, like sitting a bunch of executives in a room and coming up with, strategies. It's just, I don't think I've ever seen that be effective.
It's so funny. This is two people from consulting companies saying the reason these things don't work is because of consulting companies.
We're a different kind of consulting company.
We're
different. We really are different. We've got to come up with a different name.
Right.
Like that'll be a next episode where James and Carol riff on what we should be called.
Yes, I would like that very much because yes, it does. There's kind of that consulting's almost a bad word in the industry, and there's kind of those negative connotations. But there can be some good work come out of that. Not all of us are.
We're outcome generators, right?
Yes,
we're outcome generators.
Outcomeneers. I don't know what whatever. I always try to put engineer
like
in everything. Yeah, exactly. Like they do at Disney, right? Like yeah. All right. All right, this was good. So we're a skip it, both of us on that one. All right, now we're moving on to all of this again was our warm up. So far, everything we've done, we can kind of throw that away. That means nothing. Now is the meat of the
juicy stuff.
This is the real stuff. This is really where the rubber meets the road. Whatever analogy you want to use, our lightning round. So this is we do have correct answers for these questions. We do a grading process, a scoring algorithm.
Do I have like a phone a friend option? Like if it's really hard, I've got my little furry friend here.
You can use Claude or your cat or your cat.
I was gonna, yeah, right.
You
I
can
don't
use
have a cat,
Claude.
and I don't, but I have a dog that's like a cat, so that's
Okay.
enough.
I have one of those that crawls behind me on the couch.
Yeah.
I don't know, he's a 70-pound golden retriever and he does that.
Yeah. No, not a cat. No.
No, he thinks he is though. But yes, we have a proprietary algorithm we use for scoring the lightning round. We have to run it through. It's a lot of compute. We have to do it when the electricity is cheaper at night. Those sort of things. You know what I mean? Because it just costs a lot of money if we don't. But we'll get back with you on the results once that process is complete. It takes about 6-7 weeks. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yes, now that we've completely overhyped this thing. Ariel or Jasmine?
Can I say neither? My favorite princess is Tiana because she's the one that had a job.
Yes, she did. She made great beignets. I'm a girl dad. I'm gonna go toe to toe with you on this now. I know these stories. So all right. I think that was the one. Yeah, she was the one who made the beignets.
Tiana,
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, she did.
Are you a sourdough or a wheat kind of a person?
Oh, neither. More of like brioche.
Brioche. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Man, so far has it been a neither for both answers. You may throw off our algorithm. I don't know that we know how to score this. This is, since you're I don't know if this is Disney or not, but a Ratatouille fan maybe. Are rats cute? Do you think rats are cute?
Not at all. No. Mm-mm.
I think people who think rats are cute probably have never lived anywhere where there are rats.
Yeah, they've actually never seen a rat. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your ideal outside temperature?
70.
70. That's a good number.
Mm-hmm.
We usually use within so many standard deviations of the right answer on that. So
Close enough.
It'll be okay. I think it'll be okay.
Unless it's skiing weather, and then it's like more like 30. But from
now,
skiing.
do you get out and do snow skiing?
Oh yeah,
I assume you meant snow since you said
snow.
30 because it's kind of hard to water ski on 30 degree water.
I do water ski too, but water ski is more like it has to be 90 outside.
Yeah. You'll have to ask Miss Laura, from our company about water skiing. She was a competitive water skier, so ask her about that.
Okay.
She's really, really good at it.
Awesome.
She's a woman of many talents.
Absolutely.
Played in a band. This isn't matter. Anyway, if there is a spider in your house, do you kill it or do you set it free?
I set it free.
In the house?
No, I put a cup over it. I put a piece of paper under it and then move it outside.
It's like a magic trick.
It is a magic. I don't touch it,
right,
but I will move it outside. Yeah.
Now, you guys don't have any crazy spiders down there in North Carolina.
Oh my God,
right?
We've got the biggest spiders you've ever seen. They're
like
not tarantulas.
Spiders.
They're huge, like big spiders.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. Yeah.
But you let them outside. I'm with you because they're good. They're beneficial. I try to do that unless they see. I say that, but the other night one really scared me, and I got mad and I killed it. So, well, what I mean. Hey, I can't help it.
I get it.
I'm a flawed human being, Carol.
Aren't we all? Yes.
Can't help it. Okay. What is the lamest dessert that people try to pass off as a dessert?
Really, anything that's not chocolate.
Okay. Okay. The not chocolate desserts, anything not chocolate.
Yeah. Well, no, my husband, I hate to say this, but he loves carrot cake. And it's a vegetable, right?
Yeah, you can't.
No.
Well, that is one of our questions. You seem very astute at your vegetable versus fruit identification. Is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Supposedly it is a fruit, but it doesn't taste like a fruit to me. Not even the heirloom. I don't know where that came from, but.
All right. Now this one could be interesting. If Tupac appeared before you right now, what's the first thing you would ask him?
Oh, what would I ask him? I don't know. I would probably ask him, I don't know. That's a hard one. I love that kind of music. I'd probably ask him to just write something quick for me.
Who shot you? I think someone asked before. We all know. All right. Okay, this one's an interesting, and this one's a controversial topic. This one really, it kind of lights people up. It really gets the emotions going. What is your take on cranberries? See?
They're medicinal.
Okay, medicinal.
Is that medicinal? Did I say
medicinal?
Right? Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's like a medicine. I never understood. People try to put that in pastries. I think they try to pass it off as something because they like had extra, but no.
What if it were chocolate covered cranberries?
Well, that would be okay because then you wouldn't really actually taste the cranberry. But supposedly there's a beneficial, element to cranberry, especially for women. So I think I might be okay with that.
Yeah, they say like if you're having like a urinary tract infection, they drink cranberry juice, right? Like
That is what they
the,
say. That's
the
what
thing.
they say. That's the thing. Yes. Or take antibiotics. That would be a hell of a lot
Yeah.
faster.
Hey, what the heck? Let's maybe go with some
Yeah,
modern science on this.
some modern science on it.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
2. Well, and it's really like lattes. So it's like it's basically 4 shots of espresso.
Okay. I don't know what that counts as. There's a conversion algorithm we have. It's that we can run the numbers on that.
Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah.
Do you know how to salsa dance?
I tried to take lessons with my husband, and the only thing he could do is disco. So we tried. I was actually pretty good at it, but you kind of have to have a partner that's doing that with you. So I can disco though with him. Yes.
You can disco.
I can disco. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. And for those of our audience that don't know, most of our audience knows what disco is. We have disco knowers in our audience. So that's impressive.
John Travolta,
you don't hear a lot of folks. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I just saw something last night. Like
Staying
that guy,
alive.
he ran like a 5K every day and did all this workout out to like get in that shape for that movie. John Travolta did, because he was really skinny in that movie.
He was.
I didn't know that.
Too
I just read that
skinny. I
yesterday.
felt like he was a little too skinny.
He was very skinny for that movie. But what do you know? Wasn't it written by Sylvester Stallone or something? Or was that Saturday Night Fever? It was one of those was written by him. Okay, we're getting way off. I have a list of these here, and I usually just kind of thumb through them. Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
Birkenstocks, man. Yeah.
Birks. Gotta get your Birks on.
Absolutely. Especially if it's like a little cold outside. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and we'll finish on this. What was your, and this because it's kind of a timely thing. We are recording on October 29th, which is 2 days before Halloween. So what is the last Halloween costume you can remember wearing?
So I usually because I bring out the same thing because I created this once and I'm just kind of lazy about it. So it's a good witch. So think witch's hat, but like beautiful flowers and it's like a happy good witch. But I'm not a fan of Halloween because I don't like scary stuff. So I'm usually like you won't see me dressed as something really freaky.
It's this morning I went to update Zoom because there was an update, and I looked at the dialogue and it said the version number was 6.6.6. I took a screenshot and posted that to X, and I was like, not today, Satan. Like, no, I'll wait for the next one, Not getting me on this one, buddy. So, yeah. You mentioned being lazy about my Halloween costume. I was very lazy about this. I had to take my daughter out. Well, I didn't have to. I wanted to take my daughter out trick-or-treating.
Yes,
because it was always a fun.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything, and she's like, "You're not going to dress up as anything." I was like, "I'll be right back." So I took a Sharpie, and I wrote on a T-shirt. I just wrote, "I love ceilings," and I walked around with her, and people would be like, what is that? I'm like, I'm a ceiling fan.
That's like a wearable dad joke. That's what that was. That was a wearable dad joke.
That is fantastic. Yeah, and the drunk soccer mom, my neighborhood, they would always drink and give out candy, but the drunk soccer moms were like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" Like they didn't get it, so it didn't land. Just like most of my dad jokes, I guess it served its purpose.
Exactly.
Okay. Again, we will compile the scores and whatnot.
Did I win? Like, what do I win?
Well, don't get ahead of yourself. You know what I mean? Like, we've had a lot of contestants here on the lightning round, and there've been some pretty good scores.
Are you gonna like record on my answering machine? Like,
don't call us. We'll call you. Anything. We're having a good time.
I know. Really.
All right. So the lightning round is over. I'm going to declare it done. And any closing remarks? Anything you got coming up? Are you speaking anywhere? Are you going to be doing any sort of books or anything you got coming up that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, so I am. Well, I've been working on a book for years and years and years, but it's hopefully going to come out in the next year. And it is on the topic of digital business leaders and how you create inspired leaders. We don't have a name for the book yet, but it's really going to get at what are the underlying beliefs that need to change in leaders so that they can really drive more inspirational change in teams and organizations. And it's really focused on how do they kind of shift their leadership style so they lead with humility and wisdom, communicate from the heart and build high trust teams with unity of purpose. So really looking forward to that. I'm collaborating with John Willis, who wrote the DevOps Handbook and a bunch of other books, because in the era of AI, it's going to be much more important. If we're all, people are managing a lot of AI agents, it's going to be essential for us to, be very conscientious about how we, interact and engage with people, right? Because, being truly human and, leading from a place of heart is going to become more important.
I fancy myself a creative namer of things, so I'm going to give you a name for your book, but I will tell you, I get fired from our marketing team probably on a daily basis. So this one is for our marketing director, Taylor, but I think your book should be called Inspirationators.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, no.
I like that.
Yeah.
Somebody else said I should call it the golden thread. Oh, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. You don't actually get to name your book. The publisher gets to name your book. You just write your book. And so we'll see. We'll see.
That one's for Taylor. She'll crack up on that. The velvet thread is what our producer just typed in the chat. That's pretty good. Damn, that's pretty good. I love that book, the DevOps Handbook. That's the one I tell people read. The Dr. Forsgren's book, and then I say read the DevOps Handbook. I mean, if you want to hear why is accelerate, read that to understand why, and you want to know how. DevOps Handbook.
Exactly.
That's your 1-2 punch.
Yep.
That's all you need. And then you got to, all the other books we mentioned today, you should read those too. All right. Well, this has been so much fun. It's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a huge amount of fun. So we're really aligned, and we both like to laugh. I love your dad jokes. It's good. It's been good.
All right. Well, if you'd like to get in touch with us here at the /, please drop us a line at the /@caliberty.com. See you next time. The / podcast is created by Caliberty. Our director is Dylan Kortz, producer Ryan Wilson, with editing by Steve Baradelli. Marketing support comes from Taylor Blessing. I'm your host, James Carman. Thanks for listening.